Good evening and welcome to this Stride workshop, part of Positive East Staying In Together. Tonight's theme is setting goals and how to achieve them, and we're joined by Laura Burgess, who's the Employment Support Officer at the world-famous Terence Higgins Trust. She runs the Work and Skills Programme, which aims to support people living with HIV who are unemployed move back into work or find more suitable work by building their skills and confidence. In this workshop, we'll be looking at employment aspirations and goals, identifying any barriers or obstacles to achieving them, and solutions to overcome those barriers. We'll also look at some of the tools we can use to achieve our goals. Laura, it's great to have you with us. Good evening.
Thank you, and thank you for having me tonight. It's great to be here and as a guest speaker. So,
yeah, it's great to have you. So you're at Terence Higgins Trust. What's it looking like now lockdown's ended? How is service going over there?
Well, people are back in the offices, not necessarily full time. There's still a lot of home working happening and online working. So clinics are open for testing. And I mean, for example, my service, we used to have a face-to-face service, but due to a restructure, we're now an online national service. So yeah, it's all full steam ahead, some little tweaks and changes, but we're still here.
Well, your business is slightly different, but it's still business as usual. People can still access all the services.
Yes.
Excellent. So tonight we're going to be talking about employment goals and getting back into employment. And you're already involved heavily with this in your current role, where you're running a project to help the long term get back into employment or training. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, some of you might have known it in its previous incarnation, which it was called Work Positive. We've now rebranded it. It's called Work and Skills. So that puts the emphasis on not just employment, but also, developing your personal, skills and experience. We know that those go hand in hand. So the Work and Skills Programme, I'm the coordinator for that. So I'd always be the first point of call if anyone wanted to seek out employment support. And we've got three main areas where we focus our employment support. So in essence, we run sort of employment-ready workshops online, much like this, but more interactive, where you get to meet other peers. Those topics are around things like, identifying your goals, identifying your strengths and skills, from CV writing to application writing. We do interview techniques and then mock interviews. And those webinars are run every quarter. So if you miss one quarter, you can come along the next time. We also have a set of online e-learning modules that back up those webinars. So you can do it in your own time. There's self-directed learning, lots of helpful hints and tips on there. Reflection modules for you to sort of reflect on your own progress. But what is essential to our service is we have a team of about 40 volunteer employment mentors. So if somebody comes to me and says, look, I really need some help with my CV, or I need some help looking for work or job opportunities, I don't know where to start, I'll match them up with an employment mentor who they meet every couple of weeks online to discuss their goals and their progress and help keep up that motivation and momentum. And those relationships can last from anything from a month to 6 months. And those have been really successful at helping people move closer towards their employment goals. So, yeah. And of course, within THT, we've got lots of other services that I can signpost people to alongside their employment support.
So many of us, Laura, are aware of the difficulties and obstacles that people living with HIV face when they're trying to get back into employment. How can you help us?
I think it's essentially that it's identifying what those barriers are for the individual. And, with our webinars and our employment mentors, we identify what those challenges are and look at the solutions that can can help them with them. So overwhelmingly, what people come to me and say is, it's my confidence, my self-esteem. It may be that they've had a bad experience in work before, or they felt discriminated against. It may be that they were diagnosed 20 odd years ago and told, you know, you don't have a future, so don't bother working. And they've lost 20 years of skills and experience in the workplace and just feel very frightened of moving back into that. So it's building up their confidence, showing them that they have life skills that they've acquired along the way that are equally important and applicable to finding work, or, you know, going back into volunteering, so that you have that sense of purpose, and that builds up your self-esteem. So yeah, I think the confidence is the key issue to it, and motivating people to show them what they are able to do.
So you prepared some presentation for us, which is going to help us with these situations. What have you got for us, Laura?
Right, so today, if you could start the slides, that would be great. Thank you. So yeah, well, I've introduced myself. Yes, Laura Burgess. I'm the Employment Support Officer at THT. Welcome. Today we're going to be focusing on setting goals and planning how to achieve them. So in this session, we'll be exploring your, employment aspirations and goals. We'll be identifying any barriers or challenges that people face and looking at solutions to overcome those. I'll also introduce, as I said, a tool that you can use to help you set goals and keep you on track. If you could move to the next slide, please.
Just have a moment to reflect on your recent words.
Okay. Okay, right. So why do we set goals? What's the benefit of setting goals? And first and foremost, goals are important to provide direction. So goals give us a start point and a destination. Without a goal, your efforts become disjointed and often confusing. So it gives you a clearer focus on what's important. It also helps with decision making. So you've got a goal. Is it, which choice do I need to make to move me closer to that goal? It puts you in the driving seat as well of your future. I also think, goal setting helps us break down larger, more intimidating goals into smaller goals. And these small steps are more achievable goals, will help you build momentum and encourage you to keep working towards the next phase of your goal. It also helps us avoid procrastination, which I know I'm a good one for. And once you've achieved those smaller goals, it gives you that sense of personal satisfaction. And in turn, like I said, it provides that momentum to move you further on to the next goal and the next goal until you've reached the larger goal. I think it also gives you a sense of purpose in life, especially when your goals are aligned to your values and your priorities. I don't do enough goal setting, but we are going to be, we'll be exploring this and how you can go about this further on. Can we move on to the next slide, please? Okay. So I think it's important when you are looking at setting a goal to identify where you're starting from. So on the next slide, on the next screen, don't show it yet, you'll see an image which looks like a lot like a group of jelly babies that are hanging out in a tree. And each jelly baby represents a different emotional feeling you might experience on your personal or professional development journey. We, in our work and skills workshops, we call it the sort of starting points tree. And it's a really good self-reflection exercise to focus you back on where you are and how you're feeling and why that might, where you're starting from. So if you could share the next slide, please, of the jelly baby tree. Oh, back one. That's it. Yeah. Okay. So for those that are watching today, just take a moment to think about which one you identify with on the tree and why you identify with them. I'd also like you to think about where you'd like to end up. So we'll just give everybody a minute to have a think about that, and then I'll talk you through them. Okay, hopefully that's given everyone enough time to have a look at that. Before I go into it, I just want to say the interpretation of the different images is subjective. There's no right or wrong answer. It's about how you feel and how you interpret it. So if we have a look at number 3, climbing up the tree, you might describe that as feeling motivated, but you need a little bit of support to start your journey. And that's often what a lot of my service users say. They've got they've made that leap to start out on their employment journey, but they don't know where to go and need that support, so they come to us. You've got number 6 up there. Maybe they're in denial. They're not wanting to accept help and not wanting to address their development. Number 4, who's not even considering starting out on their journey. Look at number 10. They look like they've achieved quite a few of their goals. They're towards the top of the tree and progressing. Whereas number 13, yeah, they've made some quite serious steps towards their goals. But, as happens in many of our lives, we hit hurdles along the way that catch us off guard and can set us back quite a few steps. So wherever you identify, wherever you are on that tree, it's really important to identify where you are so that you know your starting point. Okay. Next slide, please. Okay. So once you've identified where you're starting and where you'd like to get to, yeah, so in reflecting back on that tree, where you'd like to get to, well, my starting point is I've been unemployed for 2 years. I'd really like to make moves back into the workplace, but the workplace feels quite scary. So I've identified that I'd probably like to take steps towards volunteering. Or it might be that you're already on the employment, but you're unhappy at work, you're feeling quite disgruntled, and you may either need to find a way forward of making work a more enjoyable, satisfying place to be, or it might be that you feel that you need a change of career or to move employers. So what are the barriers or obstacles that are preventing you from getting there? Now, I often hear that some of the challenges that people face are that they lack confidence and motivation. Their self-esteem is very low. They procrastinate a lot. There's a lot of distractions at home, so they don't manage their time well, and they don't have a clear idea of what role, whether that's a voluntary role or a career change that they want to undertake, or what type of job they want to seek. There might be more concrete challenges or barriers. It might be that there's a particular qualification that you need to get the dream job you want. Perhaps you need a particular piece of experience or a skill. So I don't know, if you want to take on larger project managing, to do a project management course, or perhaps it's more internal. So it's your own limiting beliefs or your own self-doubt. And like we say here, you're telling yourself, I'm not sure I can do this, or I can't do it. And that's an obstacle for you. So what are some of the possible solutions? You know, if it is that you're not in work, perhaps you might want to research volunteering opportunities to gain some experience, more relevant, up-to-date experience, and build up your CV with those skills that you've gained in your volunteering. You can also use volunteering as a way to test your mental and physical well-being in the workplace. See if you're ready for it yet. Yeah, rather than launching in to do full-time work, do a half day or a couple of half days a week. Perhaps you might head to your local education centre or the local college and enrol on some courses that are going to get you that qualification or that experience or skill that you need to further your employment goals. Perhaps it's to build your confidence and self-esteem, to boost your personal development and limit that self-doubt. So you might want to consider joining an activity or a social group or a peer support group to build up those interpersonal skills. If it's anxiety or depression or mental health issues, take a mindfulness course to manage that anxiety. My service users often identify things like they don't set, you know, some of the obstacles are that they don't time manage correctly. So, you know, setting aside a dedicated time each week. So if it's a weekend or an hour every Wednesday night where they can work on their employment goals, if it's a CV they need to write or a job to apply for, or they're doing a course, they dedicate that time to it. Sometimes when we've got conflicting priorities, we need to have a look at those and reduce the time that you give to other activities to allow time to focus on yourself and your goals. So have a think about, you know, what those barriers and obstacles are, and possibly those solutions. So I often find that it's useful to talk to somebody else about what your challenges are, because sometimes when we're stuck in a rut, we can't see where to go. So feeding ideas off each other can help in that situation. Okay, next slide, please. So here I'm introducing you to the SMART goals, yeah, which is a tool that you can use to identify, you know, to succeed in your goals. So the idea is that goals always need to be SMART if you're going to experience success and continue to be motivated. And SMART stands for, you can see there, a SMART goal is specific, it's measurable, it's attainable or achievable, it's relevant or realistic, and it's time bound. So when you're setting goals in this way, it can mean that they're easier to define, measure, and achieve. It's also a way that it's a lot easier to stay motivated. So we're going to delve in a little deeper because, you know, it can seem quite foreign. So when we say specific, be exact and explicit about your goal so you know exactly what it is. You know, it might be, I want to revise my CV. Well, why do you want to revise your CV? Is there a particular reason? Yeah, be more explicit about it. It needs to be measurable. So you need to know how you will how will you know when you've achieved it? Make each goal measurable so that you know how you're progressing. And if you see how you're progressing to reach your goal, you stay motivated. So when I say measurable, I often sort of say, well, you know, for example, if you're doing your CV, I'm going to do two versions of my CV that are ready to apply for this type of job or this type of job. So the A, achievable or attainable, it's something that, make sure it's something that you want to achieve also, and that you're able to achieve it. Because if you don't have the will behind it, you're less likely to achieve it. So don't set impossible goals. Make sure it is attainable. Now, the larger the goal, the more impossible it may seem. But if you split it down into smaller, simple sub-goals, you'll find that each step is easier. Relevant. So make it relevant to you, to your values, to your priorities, to your life goals. And ultimately, that will make it a lot easier to obtain your objectives. So time-bound. Give your goal a time frame. It's a deadline that you're working to, and ensure that that time frame is realistic. So there's no point me saying, I'm going to apply for 5 jobs in the charity sector working on employment support in the next 3 days. It's not realistic. You know, that would be for me, that would probably be over the next, you know, a course of a month if I was going to apply for those roles. You know, but do set those limits and deadlines for each goal or sub goal. And if you stick to them, it gives you that more realistic, achievable sense of satisfaction. And you'll avoid too much distraction and procrastination. And so in terms of job seekers, or, you know, SMART goals can be a powerful tool for the process. So, you know, a job seeker might, or if you're changing career, you might set a broad goal like finding a new job. And I want to find a new job. You need to identify what kind of job it is, where you're going to look. Is it the right level of job? Do you have the skills and qualifications for it? So that's, attainable, but also the realistic. And, you know, how long are you going to be looking for this job? What sort of time frame are you intending to get a new job in 6 months' time? Yeah, bearing in mind recruitment processes take a long time. So, yeah. You know, a CV, I gave you the example of a CV. A broad one would be revise my CV. A SMART goal would be, I'm going to create 2 alternative versions of my CV ready for distribution by next Sunday night. If we can move on to the next slide, I can give you a more concrete example of a SMART goal. Great, okay. So here's the goal: to plan 4 webinars this quarter. And this is often something that I have to do in my work. I plan and deliver 4 webinars this quarter with 8+ attendees per event, and 80% of those attendees, they're highly satisfied or very satisfied at the outcome or the content. So the specific is the number of webinars. The measurable is how many people are attending and the satisfaction that they feel attending those events. The attainable or the achievable, the resources are available. I'm the resource and my co-facilitator are the resource to actually deliver the webinars. Is it relevant? Is it useful for the organization when we know that people living with HIV are more likely to suffer unemployment or have challenges and barriers getting into unemployment? So yes, it's relevant to our organization and our service users. And it's time bound. I've said within this quarter, so within these 3 months. Okay. You don't have to overcomplicate SMART goals. As you can see, 5 bullet points, that's your SMART goal. Okay. If we can move on to the next slide, please. So here's a reflection for you to take away regarding a goal that you have that you can apply SMART to. So I've listed various bullet points here: the career, financial, education, attitude, and public service. I'll just give you a little bit more detail on that. So whilst we've talked about employment, and here it says career, you can apply SMART goals to all elements of your life and all these different categories where they're important to you. So for example, a career, in a career goal, what level do you want to reach in your career, or what do you want to achieve? Apply a SMART goal to that. Financial, how much do you want to earn? By what stage? How is this related to your career goals? Is it important to you? Education, so is there any knowledge you want to acquire in particular? What information and skills will you need to have in order to achieve the goals? Attitude, and I think this is key to a lot of our, achieving our goals, as I've said about confidence and things. Is there any part of your mindset that's holding you back? Is there any part, and this is really challenging, is there any part of the way that you behave that upsets you? So if so, set a goal to improve your behavior or find a solution to the problem. So I know, for example, that, I had problems in the past of asserting myself, especially when I was younger, of asserting myself to either say no or to have my voice heard. And that was one of the goals that I set myself. So a goal was to, if I was put in a position in team meetings, maybe to make sure that my goal was to speak up and be heard and to put my point across, even if I felt stupid. But that was a small goal that I put to build up that confidence and assertiveness. Public service. This is more a broader, wider thing in terms of a global society, or, do you want to make the world a better place? And if so, how? So I'll leave that with you to take away, to reflect on, and hopefully you can write down a few bullet points with regards to any of those categories. Okay. Next slide. Any questions?
Laura, I have one, if I may. If people want to access the service, how do they, your employment service, how do they go about that?
Absolutely. So, sorry, my light has really gone, hasn't it, on this? They can, I'll put a slide up, if we can put a slide up later, but on the THT website, look for work and skills, and there'll be a web page showing all the webinars that are coming up, and register your interest. So you just put in your details. The email comes through to me. I'll email you back saying, would you like me to call you? And I can explain further about what we can offer and have a chat about your needs and how we progress that. So that's how, the referral works. Or just email me directly, no problem. I'm available anytime.
Excellent. And also, it's poignant to mention that we also have a huge array of volunteering opportunities at Positive East as well. So if you're feeling inspired and upbeat after Laura's presentation, please get in touch. We'd love to hear from you. Okay, Laura, I think we're out of time.
Wonderful.
That was excellent. It's just what we wanted. We've got loads of practical information, not just about employment, but you can apply those kind of things to virtually every different area of your life, can't you?
Yeah, definitely.
So we're definitely taking some of those on board.
Wonderful. And all I would say is write them down. So it's easier to come back to and measure it. So.
And tell everyone, so you've got to commit.